here to the ship. Anyone willing to work overtime?
In the Southern District on Tuesday, there was a plea for officers to work overtime. Minutes later, it went citywide.
Citywide, overtime available on today's date, trolley shift, Southern District. Anyone interested?
Baltimore's Southern Police District is the city's largest district, 61,000 residents. And on Tuesday afternoon, sources tell us at one point there were 3 police officers on patrol. Just seconds after the plea for officers hit the airwaves, so did pleas for help.
If anyone in Sector 2 can come clear, we have a physical child abuse at Morrill Park, and there's a 10-year-old at the location with bruises all over his body. Okay, we also have a common assault. We have a missing person, 2640 D. Huron Street.
10 minutes after that child abuse call was transmitted, it appears there were still no officers en route.
We still holding that physical child abuse?
Yes, sir. And be advised, we are now holding 10 calls. No priority ones. We still have the physical child abuse and the common assault.
And it's heartbreaking. Imagine if you are a crime victim.
Betsy Smith with the National Police Association calls the city's police staffing dangerously low.
You are endangering the lives of the police officers that are on duty. And what that further does is endanger the lives of the citizens.
There's 522 vacancies.
At a city budget hearing last year, the top brass admitted it struggled with recruitment and is hoping to hire civilians to fill in the gaps.
We're looking at upwards to 120 to 140 positions that we're trying to create in this request to be able to sustain going forward.
The reason that 9 out of every 10 police departments in this country is short-staffed is because we have been dealing with here in the United States this 3.5, almost 4-year vilification and demonization of the American law enforcement officer.
Until perceptions change, Smith predicts recruitment will not improve, and the pleas for officers will grow louder.
16 is going to pick up the physical child abuse as he becomes clear of his larceny from auto.
Our sources are telling us tonight that the department is actually postponing training for officers just to keep them on the streets.
As if Baltimore didn't have enough problems, as you just saw, their police force has basically collapsed. Hey everyone, Johnny here, Don't Speak News. Wow. They've had to stop training officers, and they had 3 cops to patrol an area with 61,000 people here the other day. That's horrible. And that's just another sign that America's under judgment and it's falling apart, just like the bridge did in Baltimore. We'll get back to this in a second. First, I had to tell you guys about what I woke up to this morning, the blue screen of death. So I had a blue screen error pop up on the computer as soon as I started it this morning. I thought, uh-oh, here we go. Looks like I need a new laptop faster than I thought. Thankfully, it came back on, and it's working for now. Well, that's just another indication that it's on its last leg. So that's why I have this wish list up with a laptop over here. And, of course, we have our end-of-month funding here. Both are definitely needed. I would say the end-of-month funding first, but who knows? This laptop could give out today, tomorrow. It's anyone's guess. But it's old. It's over 10 years old, and it's really served its purpose well. It's a Dell Latitude, in case you're wondering. And that's what I'm looking at getting, is another refurbished one of those. So anyway, those are the 2 wish list items I got going, and they're definitely needed. And the labor is worthy of the hire. And now back to the news. Okay, what a headache. The business losses from the Baltimore bridge wreck are immense, and the logistics tangle to be sorted out is mind-boggling. Yes, not just for Baltimore, but for the entire nation. The economic wreckage from the destruction of the Francis Scott Key Bridge is staggering. Consider the following mushroom cloud of losses. The entire port of Baltimore is closed until the channel can be cleared, halting about 15 million in daily activity in the Baltimore region. A critical highway has been severed for much longer than the channel will be closed, with a cost in lost business, slowed business, and higher expenses that's incalculable and widespread. Yes, indeed it is. The combination of the 2 closures will impact railways, trucking, regional distribution centers, to name some of the most obvious transportation industries impacted. It's estimated that the losses to those industries will add tens of millions daily to the 15 million mentioned above. The port alone is responsible for 140,000 jobs that will be impacted until the channel is cleared, with the downstream effect from any unemployment, diminishing revenue to other industries as people tighten their belts. And of course, with the 40 ships that are already en route to Baltimore, they have to be diverted, plus those that would be coming in the weeks ahead. The delay of products into other parts of the country will cause spot shortages around the nation and will increase the cost of shipping wherever the products are rerouted and slated to go. Exactly. Car parts. I mean, all kinds of things are going to be impacted, guys. And we're already having supply chain issues lingering still from 2020, from when they shut everything down. I mean, I still see car repair shops that are backed up for weeks at a time because they can't get parts for certain vehicles. East Coast ports may not even have enough residual capacity to handle the extra shipping traffic, forcing reroutes to go through the choked Panama Canal, or at least to the Gulf or through Canada to find entry into the country. And then vehicles hauling hazardous materials that can't go through Baltimore or through the tunnels will now have a longer, slower route to make to get around Baltimore. And like I just showed you, Baltimore was in rough shape economically to begin with, including their police force. Now it will sink to the bottom of its own channel without a huge amount of national support, which we're broke. We can't afford that. They'll just print more money, but the inflation will just keep getting worse. And guys, America's going down. There's no question about it. This is just another sign of it. And I know it's hard to watch, but it is what it is. The cost of all the rerouting and delays will be mostly borne by the businesses receiving the goods that are being rerouted, and of course, like it doesn't say here, to the customers who ultimately end up purchasing those products. Inflation's going to go crazy. So, in the process of rerouting everything, there's going to be a lot of confusion about what went where, things getting lost, sitting in some back corner of some port facility where they got stashed in the overflow in the rush and it was not well recorded. And then there's a lot of competition for the ultimate shipping suddenly needed. So yeah, there's a lot of problems associated with this, guys, that haven't even been touched on yet. But what a headache indeed. Wow. And now, speaking of America and things falling apart, Tucson faces catastrophe as funding for illegal immigrants is set to expire. Arizona city of Tucson may be only days away from a crisis as millions of dollars in federal funds, which had been used to finance programs to house and assist illegal immigrants, are set to expire April 1st, potentially leading to their release en masse into the streets of Arizona's border communities. Wow. Tucson City Manager Michael Ortega said that the loss of federal funding, which amounts to more than $1 million a week, would be catastrophic for the city. Keeping 100 folks off the street is different than keeping 1,000 folks every day, Ortega told Channel 13 News. So I'm sounding the alarm. More than 1,000 illegal immigrants are processed by the Border Patrol before being brought into the city daily, guys. This is daily. And without the influx of federal dollars, it could, in a short time, overwhelm the city, according to Mr. Dahl. We've never seen the number of people coming in now that we're currently seeing, Dahl said. In the past, we're seeing 10 people a day being dropped off, and it didn't really have too much of an impact. But now, we're talking about hundreds every day, and there's simply no place in our budgets for this to continue. Mr. Dahl said regardless of the outcome, the city will continue working with nonprofit groups to set up to assist illegal immigrants. Sorry about the loud diesel again, guys. It is what it is. I don't know if you could hear it or not, but I certainly can. It vibrates the whole house. And like I said, it would be really nice to move away from that. Anyway, residents are concerned that the drop in funding could result in thousands of illegal immigrants being released onto the Tucson streets. And with crime and homelessness already high, this would likely cripple the city. Yes, it would. I'm sure it would. And this is what they're doing to all of our cities. Tucson, Baltimore, as I just showed you, the police force there has collapsed. When you've got 3 cops to patrol an area of 61,000 people, your police force has collapsed. And when you got a call over the airwaves to ask for overtime, your police force has collapsed. And Tucson, without funding, is going to collapse. And so who knows if they'll get more funding or not. This is all being set up to collapse, guys. America's going under. Revelation 18 and Jeremiah 51 are the future of America. You can't vote your way out of God's judgment. It's not going to happen. Stop the insanity. Just stop it. Look at what's going on around you and stop listening to these hot air idiots Jackasses. Stop watching these people bloviate on the mainstream news. It's just ridiculous. Stop putting up these stupid signs in your yards. Do not put your trust in princes and mortal men who cannot save. Psalm 146:3. That should be the sign in everybody's yard instead of political signs. Instead of putting your trust in man. But nope, everyone's got to have political signs in their yard, and I got to stand up for America and blah, 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 blah. And pay lip service to God. I'm so sick of it. Anyway, back to the international stage. Wars, rumors of wars. German NATO forces deployed to Lithuania. Belarus forces are massing a border area at Lithuania and Poland. So away we go. Despite Russian President Putin's televised declaration yesterday that Russia has no plans to engage NATO, troops from Belarus are deploying by the thousands to their border area near Poland and Lithuania. German NATO troops are now deploying in Lithuania near that border area. Yesterday, Russian President Putin was asked by television news reporters if Russia has plans to go after the Baltic states and elsewhere, as is being widely reported by news media in the West. The Russian president replied, "What they say about us going to attack Europe after Ukraine is complete nonsense." Well, don't listen to what they say, guys. Look at what they're doing. So Putin can say whatever he likes. So can the fat man over in Belarus. Fat man dictator, I call him. But the bottom line is a lot of troops and equipment are being deployed to the border regions of Lithuania and Poland. So while this is taking place, troops from Belarus began moving toward the border areas of Poland and Lithuania. In fact, as of this morning, Belarus has moved 20,000 such troops into the small area near the Suwalki Gap shown in the map below, right here. This brings up two issues. Belarus does not have the logistics chain to support 20,000 troops deployed here with food, water, etc. So the theory, big letters, highlighted, guys, it's a theory. Right now, something will have to pop off soon, and this is the place what will happen. The Suwalki Gap is also viewed, or was also viewed, as the Achilles heel of NATO. Topographically, it's difficult to defend, and even during the Cold War between what was the Soviet Union and the West, this land area was viewed as a place where then Soviet troops could successfully enter, make a land bridge to the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad, and simultaneously cut off the Baltic states from the rest of Europe. Rubbing salt into the situation, Belarusian leader Lukashenko is seen on this video below, talking with army chiefs about this very scenario, specifically mentioning Lithuania and Poland. So many people in Europe are now cautiously and quietly mentioning an Easter surprise. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But something to keep our eye on and be aware of. Not to have fear about it. You know, God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So I'm not talking about fear. I'm just saying being aware. We need to be aware of these things that are going on around us, right? Because Washington may have crossed a fatal line with this Crocus attack, a fatal red line. That is yet to be determined, but Gilbert Doctorow now confirms with his own analysis my prediction that Putin's toleration of provocations is spinning the Ukraine conflict out of control. This is written by Paul Craig Roberts, by the way. Dr. Rao is a careful analyst and never overstating a situation. In this interview, he says that the FSB statement implicating the U.S. and UK governments in the Crocus attack had to have been approved by Putin, and that implicating the U.S. and UK in the Crocus attack has brought us to the level of danger of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Doctorow reports that Russian television has undergone a massive change following the Crocus attack. Commentators are unwilling to accept any longer Putin's non-response to attacks on Russians. Television talk is suddenly very violent, with talk of flattening Kharkov and Kiev and bringing a quick end to the conflict that's been permitted to endure for far too long. And there you go. That's the latest analysis from Doctorow and Paul Craig Roberts. I would tend to agree. But then again, we don't have the playbook behind the scenes to see what these guys might want to do next. So, but along those lines, as far as Washington and Ukraine being involved in these attacks, look at what Kiev's SBU chief, that's their intelligence unit, what their intelligence chief hints, as he hints of assassinations, he boasts of terror attacks on Russian infrastructure during an interview on Ukrainian television. This was the other day, right after the Crocus attack. The head of the Security Service of Ukraine, Vasyl Malyuk, has pointed to his agency's involvement in the murders and assassination attempts on a number of politicians and public figures. So guys, why wouldn't they be involved in the Crocus attack? And these guys that have been captured, at least some of them are saying that they were offered up to 500,000 rubles to do this attack. It wasn't about ideology of ISIS. That's just the cover story. So in an interview with the TV channel, Malyuk said this: "In no way will we officially recognize this, but at the same time, I will tell you individual details." Malyuk said the explosive-filled statue, which killed military officer Vladimir Tartarsky, contained 400 grams of thermobar. 800 grams of plastic was used in the attempted assassination of the Luhansk People's Republic prosecutor Sergei Gorenko, and former MP Kiva was shot dead with a 9x9 caliber pistol. So anyway, he goes through all these different assassination attempts that the SBU has done against Russian political figures and otherwise, and generals, and he brags about it and says there's going to be more of them. And so they talked about asymmetric warfare before. And of course, Victoria Nuland said Russia's going to have some nasty surprises in store for them. At the beginning of March, she said this right before she resigned. So you can bet there's going to be more of these types of attacks inside of Russia. And of course, Ukraine has attacked Russia's Belgorod region using fake Russian dissidents. Remember how you've seen all these stories circulating about how these Russian rebels, former Russian troops and so on, are attacking inside of Belgorod and other places in Russia? Well, I was pretty suspect of that, so I didn't report much on it, because I'm wondering what elements are rebelling against the Russian military. Is this that Wagner group again, or what's causing this, or is this Ukrainian troops and maybe foreign troops dressed up as fake Russian dissidents? Just saying. And that's what it looks like we have here, as Lucas Laro submitted the story to me late last night. Ukrainian attacks on Belgorod continue to happen. The Kiev regime increasingly intensifies its violence against ordinary people on the Russian borders, hitting civilian targets and killing peaceful citizens. In the Western media, responsibility for the attacks is commonly attributed to supposed Russian dissident groups, but according to local insiders, this information is incorrect and intended to disguise the direct involvement of Ukrainian intelligence in the illegal attacks. So on March 14th, the author Lucas Laros went to Belgorod during a BRICS Journalists Association press expedition. The intention of the trip was to investigate the Ukrainian attacks in the region during the day before the start of the Russian Federation's election process. We covered the local situation and reported several bombings against civilian areas. However, in addition to showing the reality about the Ukrainian attacks, we also had the opportunity to obtain some interesting information about those really responsible for the crimes committed in Belgorod. During my work on the ground, I spoke with several local military personnel and heard some interesting details about these attacks. They say that contrary to what Western media claims, these raids are not carried out by expatriate Russian citizens, but by Ukrainian professionals, despite the murderers publicly describing themselves as Russian partisans. Belgorod's military said that the so-called Russian Volunteer Corps, RDK in its Russian acronym, and the Russian Freedom Legion are in fact fake organizations. Their supposed leaders are in fact expatriate Russian citizens who work as propagandists for the Kiev regime. However, the personnel of these organizations, according to sources, are not actually made up of Russian soldiers, but of Ukrainian commandos. With this, it would be possible to meet the objective of propagandizing the alleged existence of a strong opposition within the Russian Federation. They claim that such groups are directly subordinate to Kiev's military intelligence, having no autonomy in their actions. And I would agree. And the attacks aren't that significant anyway. But the media is trying to make them out to be. They're trying to demoralize the Russian people and to encourage the West to continue the war. But the military says there's no evidence of any significant migration of Russian dissidents to Ukrainian territory since the beginning of the special military operation. A large number of expatriations will be necessary to create enough armed militias strong enough to carry out raids against Belgorod. Even more so after Russian forces had eliminated several of the invaders, imposing considerable casualties on the groups. Even though they lost several of their soldiers, these militias continue to attack the border frequently, which shows they have the ability to quickly replace personnel. Yes, and I would imagine through mercenaries and maybe just regular NATO people as well. Hard to say. It's virtually impossible that all these soldiers are Russian dissidents, which indicates that Ukrainians are fighting in the region under the flag of Russian partisans. And I'll stop there and let you read the rest on your own. That's on don'tspeaknews.com, home base for everything that we do. And that will end today's broadcast. There's quite a bit to cover, guys, and it's impossible to cover it all, but I'm doing the best that I can. And I'm just a one-man operation after all. But thank you for all that you, all the support that you give, and for the prayers, the well wishes, and for the comments and support. I sincerely appreciate it. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel to be updated every time I put up a new video, click the subscribe, contact Johnny tab up here. Just type in your email here, click subscribe, then every time I put up a new video or blog post, you'll be notified. And then if you want to find us on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, and Telegram, click that tab. And here are all the links in the different places you can find us. I've got several different Telegram channels, including history and health. And I also have a Substack notes channel that I share things on as well. All of that and more here at don'tspeaknews.com. And that's it for now, guys. I'll put the wish list up. I'll put all these other links up, as I always do. And thank you very much for stopping by. God bless. Take care. Johnny Storm, Don't Speak News.